Myself, Dr. Savita Patil, Associate Professor, Department of Commerce, Autonomous Common College, Kalaburagi. In my today's video, we shall discuss the easy steps for the valuation of closing stock. Here, for the valuation of closing stock, we have to understand the three important points, that is the meaning of recurring and non-recurring expenses, the formula for the calculation of value of closing stock, and after understanding these two aspects, we can solve the problems on valuation of closing stock very easily. Here, recurring, we have to understand the first thing, that the recurring and the non-recurring expenses. Let us see the meaning of non-recurring expenses. Expenses that are incurred by the consignor to dispatch the goods from his place to the place of the consignee are called the non-recurring expenses. These expenses are added to the cost of goods. Examples are packing, loading, freight, insurance, stock dues, custom duty, octroi, unloading, carriage. Here, I'll explain you in detail what is the meaning of non-recurring expense. Here, these expenses are incurred by the consignor to dispatch the goods from his place to the place of consignee. Okay. Now, let us understand the recurring expenses. These are incurred by the consignee after the goods reach his place. The very easy examples are, that is the shop or the garden rent, advertisement, sales expenses, establishment expenses, etc. The few examples of the recurring expenses. Now let us see the important formula for the computation of the value of closing stock. Here the first step we have to understand, that is we have to calculate the quantity of the closing stock. The quantity of closing stock is calculated by the quantity sent minus quantity returned, quantity sold, or the quantity of abnormal loss. From the quantity sent, we will deduct these three, we will get the quantity sent. Then the second important, very easy step is the cost price, calculation of the cost price. The quantity of closing stock, whatever we calculated here, into the cost price per unit. We'll get the cost price of closing stock. For that, we have to add the non-recurring expenses of consignor and the consignee. A non-recurring expenses into quantity of closing stock divided by quantity sent minus quantity return. And here for the consignee, non-recurring expenses into quantity of closing stock divided by quantity sent minus quantity return, or quantity minus quantity of abnormal loss. We add these two non-recurring expenses to the cost price of closing stock, we will get the value of closing stock. Now, another important easy formula for the calculation of the closing stock is, that is total cost divided by number of units into units in stock. Now, let us see the problem based on the easy formula, that is total cost plus non-recurring expenses divided by number of units into units in stock. Surgeon setup either sent 400 kg of oil costing 12,000 to Shankarappa of Yadgiri. He paid 500 for freight. Shankarappa sold 300 kg of oil by incurring 200 as selling expenses and reported that there was a loss of oil of 10 kg of oil due to leakage. Calculate the value of the closing stock on the consignment. Here, the cost price is 12,000. The non-recurring expenses 500 is added and divided by the quantity sent minus the quantity lost. Okay. Here the 90 we have to consider the quantity of closing stock, that is 400 minus 300 minus 10. The quantity sent minus quantity sold and the quantity lost. We will get the value of closing stock. Another important problem. Ravi of Dharwad consigned to Shiva of Raichur 200 bats costing 100 each. Ravi paid 600 towards freight and insurance, 200 for parking charges. Shiva received 200 bats and paid rupees 200 for golden rent, 200 entry tax and 400 for advertisement and 200 for carriage outwards. Shiva sold 160 bats at an average price of rupees 150 each, asserting the value of closing stock. Here we have to consider what is the quantity of goods sent, then the cost price, then the non-recurring expenses to be added. Here, first step we have to calculate the quantity of closing stock, that is 200 is the goods in minus the quantity sold is 160. 200 minus 160 will be the 40. Then the cost price should to be calculated. That is 40 into the cost price is 100 is that is 4,000. For this too, we have to add the non-recurring expenses of the consignee. That is 600 into 40 divided by 200, and same for the consignee. The non-recurring expenses are 400 into 40. Add together. For this, we'll get the value of closing stock. Similar problem I have given here. That is the bus haulage of Vijaypur consigned to Shiva Raichur 400 bags, costing rupees 100 each. And Ravi paid to 1200 towards freight and insurance and 400 for packing charges. Shiva received bags and paid rupees 400 for code and rent, 800 entry tax and 400 for advertisement and 400 for outputs. Shiva sold 320 bags at an average price of 150 each, asserting the value of closing stock. This is, you can try very easy. It is similar to the previous problem, that is quantity sent is 400. To deduct 320 will get 80. 80 into 100 is the cost price. Or we will add the expenses of consignor and the consignee. We get the value of closing stock. Dear students, I think you have understood my today's class how to calculate the value of closing stock. These are based on the easy to formula. If you understood my class, please subscribe my channel. Thank you.